Hello, hello, coach. I'm so excited that you're here. It tells me a lot about who you are as a person, as a human, as a coach, that you want to master your coaching essentials. And the ICF Core Competencies are a beautiful, powerful, clear way to do that. So let's get started. Foundation is the first section, and core competency number one is all about ethical practice. Yes, ethics. And the first one states that you, as a coach, are committed to demonstrating an ethical practice. So the definition of that is that you understand and consistently apply coaching ethics and standards of coaching. The beauty about standards is that we meet our standards. How we as humans and how we help our clients to elevate, to shift, to transform their life, their business, their families. How we do that is we help them to raise their standards. Think about it. If you have a standard that says, I am the type of person who values my body and my health and the things that I put in it, and what are you going to do? If that is your standard, then you'll probably most likely not eat chocolate chip cookies every day because that doesn't meet your standard. So it's beautiful that the ICF starts out with demonstrating ethical standards and maintaining those, because that is a great way to establish a solid foundation. So let's see what the ICF says about how to do that. Number one, demonstrates personal integrity and honesty in interactions with clients, sponsors, and relevant stakeholders. In fact, if you're a fan of the 7 habits of highly effective people, one of them is all around how integrity is higher than loyalty. Think about that. How powerful is that? A lot of times we want to maintain loyalty to people, to organizations. Our integrity, if put before that, is just a way of being loyal to your ethics, to your standards. So it's no surprise why number one is demonstrating that personal integrity and honesty whenever you're interacting with clients, sponsors, and relevant stakeholders. And something tells me that because you've chosen coaching, this part is a given. It's who you are. It is your personal standard. So let's move on to number two. The coach that demonstrates this ethical practice is sensitive to clients' identity, environment, experiences, values, and beliefs. This one takes some practice because all of us, me included, we have a certain bias. We see things as we are, not necessarily as they are, as Anais Nin says in that famous quote, we see things as they are. We see things as we are, not as they are, if I can get it right. So basically what this one is stating is, if a client has identified, for example, in the Zoom world or video conferencing world, many people will put their pronouns on their screen. That helps you to know how they like to be addressed, whether it's they, them, she, her, him. When that is placed on screen, and or if the client has asked, or you can always ask as well. I'm in a community where the coach that leads it has that as a standard for the community, that every time you show up for a virtual call, you must have your pronouns, your preferred pronouns on screen. I think that's powerful. It's a powerful way to demonstrate this ethical practice. Also being sensitive to the client's environment. If they are not able to, let's say that they live in a high rise in a city and you want them to go outside and stand barefoot in the grass, be thinking about, perhaps be curious around, hey, how much access do you have to a grassy area? They might not. So being sensitive to where the client is and what their environment may be is critical. Their experiences. One time I was teaching a class, it was a virtual class, and we would give breaks every now and again. And the breaks, I was running out of time to teach, so I was making the breaks shorter and shorter. We started off with 20-minute breaks, and by the time I needed to catch up as the facilitator, I was giving the class 5-minute breaks. Well, a student private messaged me on this virtual platform and shared with me something that I could have never have known if he didn't express this, which was he was in a wheelchair, and having breaks that short did not allow him to properly take the breaks that he needed. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow. Had I known, I could have abided by this principle and given the time needed. So glad he let me know, but that's one of those experiences where we can demonstrate this ethical practice by being sensitive to a client's environment, their experiences, also being sensitive to their values and beliefs. This doesn't mean we need to share the values and beliefs. It's just a matter of honoring them and being aware of them and inserting them whenever you coach. I know, for example, I have a client who is extremely faithful, faith-based. It's a very strong foundation for her. She is a Christian. That's how she identifies herself. So many times, because I know that and abiding by this foundation, I may ask, how often have you prayed about this? And that is so responsive to her needs, her values, and her beliefs. It also creates a very, very powerful bond between you and your client. Number 3, uses language appropriate and respectful to clients, sponsors, and relevant stakeholders. I know, and I'm a big fan of all of us being ourselves and expressing ourselves as we so desire. And with that, being intentional and using language that's appropriate for the client to refrain perhaps from profanity if it's not something that is in the element of the client. If it's not something that they use, then refrain from that, as well as using language that is appropriate for clients and sponsors, as well as relevant stakeholders. And a way to do that is to pay attention to how they speak, what they say is important to them, words that they use. This doesn't mean that you need to be a parrot and just repeat after what they say, but in natural conversation, when we mirror, which means we may mock a person or a client's body language if they just put their head on their hand gently, doing that within a few moments of them doing it first. If they cross their legs and then you found yourself crossing your legs, studies have shown that psychologically that builds a lot of trust when we do that with our clients. So that's using that language, including body language, that's appropriate, is very, very helpful and in service to the client. Abides by the ICF Code of Ethics and upholds the core values. Being extremely familiar with the Code of Ethics, you don't have to know it word for word, but knowing where to find it, an easy Google search or search on the ICF website will have you in touch with it, is extremely important and critical as an ICF accredited coach, as well as the core values, knowing what those are and upholding those on a regular basis. More in this foundation of demonstrating ethical practice is number 5, maintains confidentiality, which you know is the hallmark of coaching, and that confidentiality with client information per the stakeholder agreements, as well as any pertinent laws in your area. Being mindful of that, aware of that, and also communicating that, whether it's in your agreements, your contracts with your clients, letting them know. I find a lot of times when expressing, especially when a sponsor or an organization or company has paid for coaching for a client, and this is one of the first things that I express to the client is that, hey, everything we discuss, every correspondence we have is confidential. It stays here. Unless, of course, you threaten to harm yourself or someone else, at which point it no longer is confidential because keeping you safe is our number 1 priority. Number 6, maintains the distinctions between coaching, consulting, psychotherapy, and other support professions. This one I also love to express and explain to clients either in my complimentary sessions or within the first session so that I can create that distinction, especially if you as a coach, you're also credentialed and licensed in other support professions. I have a ton of coaching clients who are coaches, who are also therapists, psychotherapists, and so many other things, consultants as well. A lot of us tend to swim around in the same pool, but there's a huge distinction. Coaches support clients in taking them from their present to their future state. Okay. Sometimes we may touch the past, but we don't stay there as long as, say, a psychotherapist or a therapist might. Psychotherapy takes a person from dysfunctional, so things are falling apart, they've become unmanageable. Perhaps there's a threat to their jobs, to their careers, to their marriage, to their family, their housing, some type of dysfunction or breakdown is where psychotherapists and therapists meet clients. They assist clients from going to dysfunctional to functional, to where their life is manageable. And consulting comes in where they analyze a client's life or business, and then they construct a strategy or a plan that they give the client. Versus a coach, the client is the one who comes up with their ideas and everything moving forward. So a consultant is very directive. They lead, they're the expert in a certain industry. Coaches honor that the client is the expert in their business or their life, and they pull out and drive out and help the client recognize anything blocking them from creating their compelling future that they'd like to create. And any other support professions, for example, a mentor. This session is a mentor session. I have been there, done that as a coach, and I teach you how to do what I've done so that you can have your own success. That's a mentor. Coaches do not mentor. We do not tell people what to do. Everything arises from the client. So when you know those distinctions, you can communicate those distinctions with clients. It's extremely powerful, and it's honoring this first core competency. 7, refers clients to other support professionals as appropriate. I have had to do this numerous times. I had a woman once who found me on Google. We had a complimentary session. It was beautiful. She was such a beautiful soul. And through her sharing of why she contacted me and what she was looking for with regard to coaching, she shared that she had some twin daughters who were grown and they were in their mid-20s, but they were very dependent on her. She also had a partner who was very dependent on her, and she felt so depressed and drained and down. Oh my gosh, how kind and sweet did this woman sound? And keywords, depressed. She'd been that way for a series of time, for a series of months. I listened to her. I validated her experience. I acknowledged her. I said, wow, that has to be a lot. No wonder you are reaching out for some support. It makes sense that you would. That's me acknowledging and validating her experience. And then I clarified to her, using number 6, what the difference between coaching and therapy is. And I let her know that her best move at this point, because of her depression, is to seek therapy because coaching would not be as effective. She was so appreciative. It was something she did not know the difference of. And I was able to refer her to 3 therapists so that she could make the best choice for herself. That's number 7, refers clients to other support professionals wherever it is appropriate. Knowing that is crucial. So for this first week, here are some things that you can do to practice and start to embody these core competencies. First, reviewing the ICF Code of Ethics and become familiar with them. Again, you don't have to know them from cover to cover. I do not. But whenever an ethical dilemma or question arises, I know where to find it. So perhaps bookmark it in your computer so that you can readily find it and research anything that you need. Second way to practice is this week, be intentional and mindful of clients' values as they express them, even if it's not explicitly expressed. What do they say that you can tell, wow, you really value XYZ? This really deepens and enhances your ability to listen and hear what's not being said. That allows a client to feel connected to you. So challenge yourself this week as you're listening to conversations, and not just with your coaching clients, with family members, with coworkers and colleagues. Listen for how they speak about and express their values or their identity or the experiences that they've had in their life and their career. Listen for their beliefs as well, and really become attuned to that type of listening. You'll be so great at it if you really put this into practice this week. Review your client contracts. If you have contracts already, review those and your agreements and make sure that you've properly spelled out where there are strong agreements, where it's clear, and that you have the confidentiality expectations as well. Be sure that that's in your contracts. If you need support with that, the Coaching Collab is a great product within the digital shop that you can purchase that will I give you all the templates for all the contracts that I offer in my business. A fourth way to demonstrate and practice this week in terms of ethical practice is to research the distinction between the support professions like coaching, consulting, psychotherapy. Perhaps even bookmark a page that expresses the difference very nicely. There may even be a page on the ICF website, which is which is coachfederation.org. You can take a look at that. And then finally, have a resource at the ready. Create a referral document of support professionals like therapists, like mentors, like consultants. Really start compiling people that you know or know of so that when you're in a situation with a client where you need to make that referral, it's easy. It's done very quickly. Also, a great challenge for yourself is if you don't currently have relationships with other support professionals, this is a great way to network. Network, get to know others in your community across the world, connect with them on LinkedIn. The opportunities to create these connections and this networking is so powerful, not only in the case where you may need to refer people to these professionals, but think of the ways that it might expand your reach and expand your opportunity to get referrals right back to you. And that's it for week 1. Core competency number 1 demonstrates ethical practice. Have fun putting this into play this week, and I cannot wait to see and hear how it works for you.